So today, lads, we're going to talk a little bit about the fourth quarter, and we're going to be talking a little bit about how the Atlanta Dream, in my opinion, just had no answer for Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever in that fourth quarter. And realistically, for quite a bit of the second half, they had no answer for an aggressive.
The Atlanta Dream coach had no way to stop Caitlin Clark. And honestly, this isn't the first time a coach has been surprised by how well she plays. When the game ended with the Indiana Fever winning 99-82, you could see the shock on the Dream coaches' faces. They had no idea how to deal with the force that is Caitlin Clark.
Let me say this about the Atlanta Dream. Y'all was hanging in there for 2 quarters, but then y'all ran out of gas. Cause you know why? The Indiana Fever ran y'all out y'all own building, and it was a sight to see. Y'all was huffing and puffing, trying to get some air and find some extra wind, and y'all couldn't.
This is what happens when players make the mistake of saying Caitlin Clark is only the 9th best point guard. She doesn't listen to the hate, doesn't get distracted by the noise, and never lets those rankings define her. Instead, she lets her game speak, and she leads her team to easy wins.
Hey, there's no surprise that the Indiana Fever looked best tonight when the offense was ran through Caitlin Clark. There's no surprise that the offense looked best tonight when we pushed the ball off of a make, pushed the ball off of a miss. There's no surprise that the Indiana Fever looked best tonight when Caitlin Clark was surrounded by players that don't have an ego, surrounded by players that said, I'm going to be MVP of the WNBA this year. You see how easy it is when you just let Caitlin play ball and others follow suit.
What we saw against the Atlanta Dream wasn't just a game, it was a statement. Caitlin Clark was finally free to play her style. Fast, in control, and running everything through her. And even though she scored just 12 points, she completely dominated with her all-around performance. With 9 assists and full control of the tempo, her impact went far beyond the box score.
They made sure Caitlin Clark had the ball in her hands. She became the creator of offense. That's what we've been saying. Her and Aaliyah Boston, I believe it was 4 times, got the Stockton-Malone 2-man game working. Dantas got involved at one point with Caitlin Clark. Caitlin was still off on her shooting tonight.
But the most remarkable part was that Stephanie White finally let Caitlin Clark play her way. Fast, aggressive, and in total control. She didn't need to hit every 3 to make a statement that night. The Dream coach came in prepared for everything except a fully unleashed Caitlin Clark running the show at full speed.
Even when she wasn't exactly getting when it wasn't her putting the ball in the basket or her showing up on the stat sheet, she was burning Jordan Canada. And people don't understand how good Jordan Canada is on defense. She was absolutely burning Jordan Canada. Canada could not stay in front of her. And that is a big thing. That is genuinely a big, big thing. That if you can't stay in front of her, it creates a space for everybody else. And there were some hockey assists, there was good ball movement, there was a lot of things. There was a lot of real positives when it came to Caitlin Clark today.
You know what's beautiful about all this? The Dream coaching staff spent hours studying film, building defensive plans, and trying to find ways to shut Caitlin Clark down. They probably talked about double teams, full court pressure, and making every possession tough. But when the game ended with a 99-82 Fever win, the Dream coach was left speechless, completely broken down by a player many claimed was only the 9th best point guard in the league.
Obviously, tough game. I thought we had a good first half. We were really competitive. Second half, we just had so many defensive breakdowns, and give them credit. They were getting extra possessions, and those extra possessions were turning into points just about every single time. So, just valuing ending their possession. It's not enough to force a tough shot. We got to come down with the ball. And then, we had some defensive breakdowns and they made us pay for. They were able to extend the lead. And then at the end, we had to, do some gambling and do some things that really we're not that equipped to do.
If you're enjoying this, make sure to subscribe. Because this isn't just a one-time thing. Caitlin Clark keeps leaving WNBA coaches stunned. Remember when people thought the jump from college to the pros would humble her? Instead, She's not just keeping up, she's raising the bar for what greatness looks like in the league. The irony? These same coaches who design entire defensive schemes just to stop her, who treat her like she's prime Michael Jordan, are the ones who voted her the 9th best guard. They try to knock her down, minimize her impact, and celebrate making her struggle. But when it counts most, under the bright lights, it's them who end up looking foolish.
The Atlanta Dream were able to really neutralize Caitlin Clark in the first half, and I know Caitlin Clark had 5 first half assists, but they were able to neutralize Caitlin Clark's impact on the game in that first half. And in the second half, regardless of the box score numbers, how Caitlin completely took over. So the big way they were able to neutralize Caitlin Clark, and I think it was almost an issue with Stephanie White as much as anything, is they were...
Against the Atlanta Dream, we witnessed something special. Stephanie White finally embraced what Iowa fans have known all along. Caitlin Clark is at her best when she controls the pace and flow of the game. For much of the season, we've seen White try to squeeze Clark into a system that didn't fit her one-of-a-kind skill set. We've seen the frustration when Clark was stuck in the corner, watching others bring the ball up. But this game was different. White finally realized that trying to contain Clark's instincts is like trying to cage a hurricane. When you have a generational talent, you don't force them to adapt to your system, you build your system around them. And that's exactly what we saw unfold.
But you saw Clark sort of gaining her rhythm as the game went along, sort of returning to her form as the game went along, finding that pep in her step as the game went along, even though the shooting numbers were tour dates again, and she's got to find that shooting stroke at some point. Look, it can't go on all year, but you understand where some of those struggles come from when you deal with a quad injury and then a groin injury, and you're thrust back into the lineup and you're trying to find your way. But I do think it was the way that Clark found her way to the basket that was the difference in this game, really. That was what changed the dynamics of this.
The Dream coach could only watch helplessly as Caitlin Clark ran the Fever's offense like a master conductor. She created chances for her teammates, spotted passing lanes no one else could see, and made smart adjustments that left Atlanta chasing shadows. Even when her threes weren't falling, she was still in complete control of the game. What made it even more impressive was how she lifted everyone around her. That's the part her critics never want to admit. Clark doesn't just shine on her own. She makes everyone else better too.
An inconsistent ride for Indiana, and for Clark as well, who's had to fight through a lot of injuries. But I think the encouraging thing from Cece was the fight that she showed on the floor. Clearly, she's not quite at 100%, still working her way back, hasn't found her 3-ball yet, but what she did was attack. She used the physicality against the defenders by putting her head down and going to the basket. That opened things up for her playmaking, which of course is another genius aspect of her game. Once that started clicking, the Fever ran away with things. Sophie Cunningham was everywhere. Clark had it going with Aaliyah Boston again. Kelsey Mitchell was cooking. And all of a sudden, you look up and the Fever are lighting up the score.
When Caitlin Clark plays her style fast-paced, pushing in transition, creating on the fly, the entire Fever team becomes more dangerous. Kelsey Mitchell gets cleaner looks, Aaliyah Boston finds space to work in the post, and role players like Sophie Cunningham get wide-open threes. The Dream coach had no answer for this version of Caitlin Clark because this version is simply unstoppable. When she's confident, when she's setting the tempo, when she's allowed to be the floor general who became a household name at Iowa, she doesn't just look like a great player, she looks like a generational one.
They were manhandling Caitlin Clark early in that game. Like, they had 2 hands on her. They were fully getting into the we are grabbing her and we don't really care. Like, that was their goal. Their goal was they were out there to maul Caitlin Clark. They had they had absolutely no intention of doing anything other than mauling Caitlin Clark.
Let's talk about that 9th best point guard nonsense for a second. The contradiction is wild. Coaches spend hours game planning for Caitlin Clark. They build entire defensive schemes just to slow her down. They stress over her impact, lose sleep over her matchups, and then vote her as the 9th best guard in the league? That's not honest evaluation. It's either jealousy or pure denial. Because their actions on the court tell a different story. The truth is, coaches don't know how to stop her, and neither do the players. And the scary part, she's only getting better. With every game, she adds new layers to her skill set. Every time defenders think they've figured her out, she counters with something new. We're watching the evolution of a star. The college version of Caitlin Clark was already impressive, but this pro version, one learning to beat double teams, handle WNBA level physicality, and build chemistry with new teammates is downright terrifying for the rest of the league.
And this was a really nice all-around game from the Indiana Fever. And some may ask, well, Rhodes, do you feel better about Stephanie White? No, not at all. Because until she proves night in and night out she's willing to put the ball into Caitlin Clark's hand and let her be the creator and innovator on offense, I will not be sold. I will not be sold. The fact is, Caitlin's going to start knocking these shots back down at some point. And all of a sudden, her statistics are going to blow up.
The Atlanta Dream coach's stunned reaction said it all. Caitlin Clark is not the 9th best anything. You don't spend hours game planning, lose sleep, or redesign your entire defense for someone you think ranks 9th. Let's be real. Clark is already one of the league's elite, and Stephanie White finally saw what many of us have been saying all season. Clark is at her best when she's playing her game. That fast, up-tempo, instinctive style that made her a legend at Iowa is just as dangerous in the pros. When she's free to push the pace and create without being boxed in by rigid systems, she becomes the kind of player coaches dread preparing for. And her brilliance against Atlanta wasn't just about stats, even though her 9 assists and leadership were huge. It was about how she controlled the emotional rhythm of the game. Every time the Dream built momentum, Clark shut it down. Every time they looked ready to make a run, she made the play that flipped the energy right back to Indiana.
Put a square peg in a round hole. This was a tale of two halves. A tale of two halves. A half where the Indiana Fever let Jordan Canada have wide open shots, and a half where they decided to play defense and shut Jordan Canada down and not let Ryan Howard get off. Interesting. A half where we had Caitlin off ball and sitting a lot, sitting on the bench, riding away in the first half, and the second half where, oh my God, she's in the game. Oh my God, they're giving her the ball.